From the heart of Texas, this is Central Texas News Now.
George Bush was a charter member of the greatest generation. Be kind to people, he would say, and he was. Because our glory, George, was to have had you as our president and as such a friend.
The 41st President of the United States rests in peace right now. Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Dennis Turner. President George H.W. Bush returns to College Station for the last time on a whirlwind of a day across the Lone Star State. Let's get right into today's events which captivated the nation. Lindsay Lippin has braved the dreary weather all day long in College Station for the final salute to President Bush. Lindsay, I understand the motorcade that brought Mr. Bush to his final resting place passed right behind you.
It did, and it's been a touching tribute from the beginning to the very end here. And President Bush is now in his final resting place here at his presidential library. And I can tell you the weather is no match for the Aggie spirit and the spirit of this president. Very evident today. The nation's farewell to America's 41st president ended today in College Station, but the day of ceremonies started with family and friends honoring George H.W. Bush in a private memorial service this morning in Houston at the same church where the Bush family held the funeral service for their matriarch, Barbara Bush, in April. George P. Bush, one of the former president's grandsons, delivered a moving speech during the service.
George Herbert Walker Bush is the most gracious, most decent, most humble man that I will ever know. And it's the honor of a lifetime to share his name.
Bush's funeral in Houston also brought out some big names, including some who sang. Country music star Reba McEntire sung the Lord's Prayer at the funeral service. The Grammy winner followed the Oak Ridge Boys, who were one of the president's favorite musical acts. The group sang Amazing Grace during the service. The church was also filled with a number of other celebrities. Houston Texans player J.J. Watt, former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott were all in attendance. Other notable names to Central Texas included former Texas A&M football coach R.C. Slocum and businessman and former Houston Astros owner Drayton McClain. Now, hundreds of people lined up along the train route to welcome Bush back home to Aggieland. Holly Stouffer takes us to that final farewell.
A crowd of hundreds fell silent as the train carrying George H.W. Bush rolled into College Station. American flags waved with pride as tears fell for 41.
It's pretty emotional today, so we're trying to keep it together.
But the low quickly turned to a high as his loved ones waved to the crowd.
Oh my gosh, they're waving.
Sarah Hooper got in hours ahead of Bush's arrival. She couldn't miss the chance to support a member of her Aggie family.
It's a big moment, and the family means a lot to this community, so.
A historic, touching moment she will never forget.
Because George and Laura. Did you
in
see
College
them?
Station, Holly Stouffer, Central Texas News Now.
And Bush is being laid to rest next to his beloved wife as well as his young daughter, Robin. And George W. Bush says he finds peace knowing that he will be hugging Robin and holding his mother's hand once again. Now let's take a closer look at that train. A locomotive unveiled in 2005 for a special exhibit at George H.W. Bush's presidential library was used to pull the late president's funeral train. The 4,300 horsepower machine carried Bush's remains to his final resting place here. A car with transparent walls allowed mourners along the tracks to see the president's flag-draped coffin. It is the 8th presidential funeral train and the first since Dwight D. Eisenhower's remains were carried from Washington to his native Kansas. Abraham Lincoln had the nation's first presidential funeral train back in 1865. Now, the Texas A&M University campus was closed today for the funeral of the 41st president, but Stephanie Escobar was on campus as people lined up to say goodbye as he returned to his second home.
With messages and banners, Texas A&M remembers a president who became part of their Aggie family. Michael Jacobs remembers meeting President George H.W. Bush as a kid in Dallas and as an adult working at Cafe Excel.
He was just always so encouraging of all of our endeavors, encouraging us through school.
Jacobs wanted to pay his respects to the president as the 4141 train made its way to his final resting place on Thursday.
I was so much more than I expected.
Jennifer Cupid wanted to share the experience with the younger ones in her family.
We got to see his son too, so that was an amazing experience. I've never seen him before in person, so to be able to share that experience with them and have that opportunity was something that was definitely worth it.
It all made braving the rain worth it for A&M graduates Sue and Mike Norris, who wanted to say goodbye to one of their own.
It's a part of history that we have a chance to participate in. We admire a lot of the qualities that George Bush had.
Qualities that prompted a business owner and Aggie to make a shirt to remember this moment.
Really, today is a day to honor and remember the life of a president who stood for moral decency and political civility. Someone who was a hero, a patriot.
A moment that will leave a lasting impression on all of them.
Sad, of course, but also could just really feel the energy of God following the train.
In College Station, Stephanie Escobar, Central Texas News Now.
You could also feel that energy right here at the library. Now, classes will resume again tomorrow. A lot of people came out today, but they've been coming out here all week, especially coming here to George H.W. Bush's Presidential Library, which is lit up beautifully behind me, those flags at half staff. People who visited were able to sign a condolence book located inside while sharing the memories they made with the 41st president. The founder of a nonprofit organization called Project Unity, who met Bush in 2001, even came out. The group, which works to strengthen parenting, prevent child abuse, and provide medical care for people with HIV, won an award from Bush for their service. He created the Daily Point of Lights Award back in 1990 to honor people who make a difference. It aimed to highlight the volunteer movement.
His love for family, his love for country, his love for service is, just rampant across what he's done in this world. And as a community, we mourn him, we celebrate him, we will continually remember him and what he's given to us.
The library is set to reopen tomorrow, and admission will be free through Saturday. From the White House, President Bush formally recognized more than 1,000 volunteers as points of light, highlighting the volunteer movement that became a defining mission of the Bush administration. Points of Light then reinstated the Daily Point of Light Award in 1998 with a mission to honor those who take action to create change in their community. In 2014, the program expanded to include the United Kingdom. To date, more than 6,000 awards have honored individuals who represent the heart and soul of our country, and through them, the legacy of President George H.W. Bush lives on. Now, if you want to honor the legacy of the former president, you can pledge your time to volunteer and become a point of light in your community. If you want to pledge your service, donate, or share with others, we have a link to do so on our KXXV mobile app. A cold, damp day here in College Station as we honored the 41st president, but that weather wasn't enough to cancel a scheduled flyover, which still took place despite those gloomy conditions. And I can tell you, as we looked up and we saw that final missing man formation executed just perfectly, it was the most moving moment that we had here at the Presidential Library. And Matt, thankfully the weather held out for that.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment there, and you could really see the silhouette of the planes. And as we check out what we are looking at currently across the region on our First Alert Central Texas radar, you can see that we do have showers that are just staying right along I-35 for the most part, slowly starting to make their way eastbound toward Franklin, Groesbeck, Mejia, Fairfield, and down toward Bryan College Station as well. You've really missed out on a lot of the rain so far. That's good news for folks down there, but we are seeing the rain continue to develop, and that will be the case over the next few days. Flood watch in effect, Corsicana to Waco to Lampasas and down to the southeast toward Bryan College Station and all the way to the Texas coast. The heaviest of the rain will likely be across our southeastern counties as we head through the next couple of days and look at the rain falling on the Extraco Eagle Eye right now. there in downtown Waco looking at I-35. So slow it down on area highways. And you can also see it's quite wet in Bell County on I-14. And temperatures are on the cool side, but it's going to continue to get colder. We have our temperatures currently into the low to mid 50s. We're really not going to drop much tonight. We may drop about another 2 to 3 degrees, but as we make our way into tomorrow, the temperatures will continue to drop, and that's when the heavier rain will start as well.
All right, thanks, Matt. We'll check back with you in just a minute. And Lindsay, hang in there in that weather for now. We'll check back with you for more of those touching stories on President Bush's final homecoming around 6:30. Well, ahead, a little holiday cheer comes to Fort Hood as families get a gift to get them in the holiday mood. We'll see the glee provided by a tree, a Christmas miracle that makes these folks positively lyrical. And preparations underway for another holiday wonder, the 56th annual Colleen Christmas Parade. Just when you can be a part of the festivities coming up.
We rejoice, Mr. President, that you are safely tucked in now and through the ages with God's loving arms around you. Because our glory, George, was to have had you as our president and as such a friend.
That was former Secretary of State James Baker, who was a good friend of President George H.W. Bush, trying to hold back tears as he spoke at President Bush's funeral today in Houston. You know, the planning for today's event started almost 2 decades ago, and every single detail was planned out. The train left from Houston and got here to College Station a few hours later, but I can tell you, in all of the small towns that it met along the way, including as it left Houston, you could see crowds of people lined up along the train route, proud of this president, proud of his legacy of service. You know, little kids holding American flags, adults holding American flags, as well as signs of support. And just the presence of people today shows you how beloved this president was and will always be. And then the motorcade got here to Aggieland. And it was very evident today why President George H.W. Bush chose Aggieland to be the location of his library. It opened back in the late 90s here, and he was always a presence here on campus. I was a student starting here in 1999, and I can tell you, when you go off to college and you leave home, whether it's many hours away or if you live here in Bryan College Station, that experience of leaving your parents for the first time, of course you look to find father figures, and they were really like adopted grandparents here at Texas A&M for all of the students. They interacted with the students here, but specifically he enjoyed the values that are here at Texas A&M. And so we saw all of the cadets lined up along the pathway here to the library as his motorcade came in, and then it came around this fountain behind me and then went on there to the gravesite, which is just behind the library. And if today is any indication, we know that many people will want to visit President Bush's gravesite. Of course, now he is buried next to his beloved wife, as well as his young daughter, Robin, who died at a very young age of leukemia. So he's laid to rest here, and we have heard that people will be allowed to come visit his grave as early as Saturday. The library will reopen as well, and it will be free from now until Saturday as well. Dennis, back to you.
Lindsay, what a privilege to be in College Station on this special day. Thanks. We'll check back with you later on.
Ready to go to use the radar portion tomorrow.
Thanks, Matt. Our crews in College Station have worked out in the wet, blustery weather all day on this day of honor for President Bush. Let's return to Lindsay Lippman outside the George H.W. Bush Presidential Library in College Station. Lindsay, has quiet descended on the A&M campus now that today's events have concluded?
It really has. We are the final crew out here. They are breaking down some of the setup here. So everyone is gone for now, but I have a feeling there will be many visitors in the days to come. We will have continued coverage tonight at 10 o'clock, but for now, we leave you with a look back at today's events honoring the 41st President of the United States.
George Herbert Walker Bush is the most gracious, most decent, most humble man that I will ever know.
For decades, we have sang for him.
And he talked about
you know, creating a kinder, gentler nation. And I'm here to say thank you for putting that out there, Mr. President.
Be kind to people, he would say, and he was.
He had humility, integrity, honesty.
A great man. It's the least I could do.